Good morning, everyone. It is October 24th, 2018. So I've been absent for a little while here, and a lot of shit has happened in my absence. For example, Trump had a big rally there in Houston, Texas, where he really had a huge crowd. And here's the thing. So did President Obama when he spoke. He got big crowds too. And his supporters pretty much supported everything he did, even if it wasn't such a great idea. And here we are, different president, different ideology, somewhat anyway, and the same thing has happened. The followers of these politicians forget the promises made. They forget the evils done. They forget, and they forget more. So, I've said it a few times that if there's a huge crowd of people running in a direction, you should probably go the opposite direction. You do not want to be a follower. You don't want to follow where the crowd is going, because oftentimes where the crowd is going is the last place you really want to be. Now, I've been talking about Deagle.com here recently quite a bit, and it's because of the forecast for the United States and much of the world. I've been talking about this. I just uploaded a video explaining their point of view, what Deagle says about their forecast. And even if it's due to migration, even if it's not a pandemic or civil war or anything like that, it's still going to be terrible. And I'm going to tell you why. Let's say we're left with 100 million people here in the United States, okay? We have all these hospitals that will go unstaffed. We have all these police departments that will go far, far understaffed. Not that that's a bad thing to me, but to others, like, a defenseless elderly person, that might not be such a great thing. Then you have the issue of our infrastructure. There's not going to be any money for infrastructure building. Our infrastructure continues to crumble. Our crop losses are in the billions now. So over the next few years, our country is going to be transformed into something that we never thought possible. Or at least most people. Of course, I've been talking about this for quite some time, and that is the financial end of things, the collapse of the dollar, the collapse of the stock market, and people, or countries rather, refusing to use the US dollar as the reserve currency, and rightfully so. You have all these things that are adding up. People are going to leave. That's going to leave a lot of stuff undone, unstaffed. The jobs are going to be gone. And basically, what it's going to boil down to is a survival of the fittest, or maybe survival of the craziest. And what do I mean? Well, in such an environment, you're going to probably have to do some crazy shit to survive. And look at all the abandoned areas of our country, some of these cities that have turned into third world shitholes. No, imagine the entire country being that way, except for where what's left of the ruling class lives. The rest of the country, people are going to be suffering. They're going to be struggling. They're going to be starving. They're going to be fighting. And it's going to spiral out of control. We're going to have waterborne illnesses. We're going to have all kinds of shit that hasn't been seen on this continent for a very long time. Deagle.com says that the reduction in population for America is going to be due to migration. Can you imagine how ironic that's going to be? Americans running to these Latin American and Asian countries, begging for, asylum, like the current caravan that's heading our way, if not, hasn't already got here. Now, how are we going to reconcile the fact that most of us didn't want these people here in the first place, and just to turn around and to have to migrate to one of their countries and take some of their jobs? I find it very ironic. Now, what could we do to prevent this? We can create. We can create. That's how you prevent it. You create things, like spaceships, like artificial intelligence. Now, I know a lot of people are afraid of artificial intelligence, but allow me to point out that we've been using the same rocket technology since the 30s. We've been using the same jet engine technology since World War II. The end of. So, we have not gotten anywhere further when it comes to leaving this planet. And this is something the United States really needs to focus on. We really need to find a different planet for humans to inhabit. And when we do eventually find the planet and get there, we cannot destroy the next planet we live on like we just did ours over the last 100 years. Most of the damage has been done over the course of the last 100 years. The wars, the pollution, all of it. I had children. And 2025 is not that far away. I won't be that old. 55? No, 51. I'll be 51 years old. And my children are going to have to deal with whatever happens in this country. And so are yours. So, we can either fight each other or band together and try to create something worth living for. The United States isn't going to be a superpower forever. Those nuclear weapons are outdated. A lot of our technology is outdated. And we need better technology. Back to the AI. With AI, it would be made possible to create warp drives and this kind of thing. Without them, what chance do we really have to get off this fucking rock? This rock that has been ruined by the likes of Fukushima. All the oil spills. All the leaking nuclear reactors. This planet this planet is going through some major changes, and I venture to say that these changes are not going to be pleasant for most of us. Now look at me right now. You see I have my toboggan and heavy coat on. It's because it flipped from summer to winter just like that. There was no in between. There was no preparing for winter. It was just here. And that's not to say that we won't have warm days, but if this is any indication of how our winter is going to be, man, is it going to be a long-ass winter. I would much rather deal with heat and bugs than being cold. So, let's check out some of the stuff that's going on here. Houston rally is the perfect example of why the media hates President Trump. Tailgate party set up after 100,000 RSVP to a venue with only 19,000 seats. And this is what I'm talking about. When people get to the point where they're that desperate that they need a savior to change things, don't follow those people. It's the worst thing you can do for yourself. You gotta think for yourself. You gotta look at the numbers. The numbers say that our economy isn't doing that great. The numbers say that our unemployment is very high. And so what is going to happen with our economy? This says what America will look like should the globalist ludicrousy push for war with Russia and to get their way. Russia has unstoppable nuclear weapons. They cannot be stopped. They are hypersonic, and we have nothing that can touch that. Nothing. So what do you think? What do you think is going to happen if we keep on pushing the Russians? Nothing good. Nothing good. Bert. Russia's unstoppable nuclear weapons are a warning to the psychopaths. He says, aggressors will be annihilated and die like dogs, and we will go to heaven as martyrs, Putin says. Now, there's only so much that the world is going to tolerate from our country, especially during our decline. Now, if it would have been 30, 40, 50 years ago, they may have laid down and taken it, but not anymore. Our dollar is worthless. All these nations are sending that shit back. While the mainstream media won't say it, judging by President Trump's recent announcement that the U.S. will be pulling out of the International or Intermediate Range Nuclear Force Treaty signed by President Ronald Reagan all the way back in '87, President Trump understands that mutually assured destruction with Russia is no longer mutual, with the U.S. having fallen far behind Russia in the nuclear arms race, as Dr. Peter Vincent Fry reported on AMP back on March 14th of this year. Russia has achieved the holy grail of nuclear superiority over the United States, what is known as escalation dominance. And keep in mind that the Deagle forecast did not include any pandemics or nuclear war. If either one of those things happen, then that population will plunge even lower. With Russian President Vladimir Putin recently laying down the law at the Valdea Economic Forum, where he speaks each year, and you can hear him speak in the first two videos below, which have been translated. He also minced no words, claiming Russia would never use their unstoppable new nukes as a first strike. Putin also warned Russia will strike back at an aggressor under any circumstances where the future of Russia is at stake. It was his assurance that in doing so, 1, it would be just and righteous, dying like martyrs, and 2, so swift and brutal, the aggressors would die like dogs, so with no time to ask for salvation. And while this Zero Hedge report states that neocons in Washington, D.C. are trying insanely push President Trump into war with Russia, actual literacy believing that we could win. Putin's warning echoes those given by many that any war between the U.S. would end in complete catastrophe for the entire planet, especially with Russia's new hypersonic nuclear weapons that we cannot stop. Now, I thought of something here. Are these nuclear weapons EMP proof? If they are, then there's no way to stop them. But if they're not, theoretically, we can detonate an EMP and knock those things out. But I don't think so. I don't think that will work. From this important Zero Hedge story about Putin's warning and the very powerful words he used. Those are strong words. They are words of a meek man. And I covered this article earlier. And the word meek, as Jordan Peterson reminds us, describes someone who has weapons, knows how to use them, and keeps them sheathed until they have no other option. And we are pushing the Russians to that point where they will not have any other option. We keep fucking around doing the bidding of Israel. We keep fucking around in Syria. We keep putting troops along the Russian border. Some bad shit's going to happen. And it's only a matter of time. So, you know, whatever your plans are, they should include survival. Survival. That's about all we're going to get here in the United States. Those of us who are left here to deal with all of the things that are wrong. So, tell me what you think. Do you think we're going to end up with war with Russia? Or do you think our so-called leaders are too smart to get caught up in that? I don't think so. I think that they're doing everything they can to make sure a war happens. Just my opinion, though. Anyway, hope y'all have a good day. Kill the state before the state kills you.